What's going up, everybody? It's Teeny the Great back for another video. So today I'm going to be trying out a new product. I am going to try the Derwent Inktense pencils. So these are like watercolor pencils, but I believe once the paint is dry after you activate it with water, then it can't be reactivated. So it kind of turns to ink, hence Inktense. So Derwent is a really great brand. It's got a great reputation. This is the first Derwent product that I've actually ever tried or bought, and I've never tried anything like Inktense before where you can't bring it back after you wet it. So this is just a set of 12 color pencils. It also came with a water brush. So I'm going to try it out with you guys. I'm going to unbox it here for you, show you the products, watch it out, and then I'll paint with it and I'll give you guys my opinions after that. So let's jump into the unboxing. Alright, so this is how the product looks. It comes in a metal tin, and this in the shop was on the back like this, wrapped into some plastic. So we've got a metal tin, 12 colors. It'll show you the colors on the front, and then on the back it's got some information here. I think this is just different languages pretty much, but if you guys are familiar with watercolor pencils, they work the same, only once they're dry you can't reactivate. So it's not a hinged lid, the lid comes off. And this is what the product looks like. This is a little water brush that it came with. Haven't used it yet. Pretty thin round brush. And these are the colors. So these are the colors you get. You get 12 colors, and they're pretty standard colors. I read some of the names, and they're like Inktense's own, or Derwent's own names for these colors. So we've got a yellow, orange, red, pink, blue, teal, light green, dark green, olive green, a couple of browns, and a black. So it looks like pretty much your primaries, your secondaries, and then a few neutrals. So now I want to get to swatching these. Alright, let's go ahead and swatch these. So I want to try them out dry, and then we'll throw some water on them and see what they do. So everything is drawn out onto the paper, dry with no water. So honestly, they just kind of felt like really dry colored pencils. If it was just a colored pencil, I think I'd be pretty disappointed. But we'll see how well they reactivate with a little bit of water and see if they get nice and juicy. So I'm going to use the Derwent water brush that came in the kit and see how this works out.
Nope, boy. Yeah.
This is everything swatched out with some water, so you can see what it looks like dry without any water, pretty much like if you were using a colored pencil, and then as a watercolor. And I have to say, I'm really happy. I feel like my main hang-up with watercolor pencils or Inktense pencils or other water-activated dry pencils is that they don't activate that well, so you can still see scribbles and then like a smear of watercolor on top of it, which that's not what I like. So there's only a couple of parts where you can still see the lines after I activated it, and I think if I went in a little bit more and just scrubbed it, it would definitely come out. So far my impression is pretty good from these. You get a lot of color payoff. Obviously, if you draw darker and heavier, you're gonna get more color than if you use a pretty light hand. So that's pretty common though, of course, to be expected. So I want to try some blending with this, try some other stuff with you guys, and see what else we can do with these. I kind of just want to play with them real quick, see what we can do before I dive into a painting. So this is apple green. Let's do apple teal. See what we can do with these colors. I'm gonna see if we can get a really smooth blend with these. And then maybe even like a yellow or a blue. So as I'm drawing, I can see that the color when it's dry is completely different than when it's wet for some of these. Like the sea blue, when it goes down, it's like a dark navy blue, and then after you activate it, it turns into kind of like a phthalo blue. So that's kind of actually to be expected with watercolors, so it's interesting to see that in the dry form with a pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and wet this and see how smooth we can get it to blend, see if we can get all these marks out. I really like that color. So I got a pretty smooth blend. I'm really happy with that. The colors are really, really vibrant. When they dry, of course, they're going to be a little bit lighter, just like you would expect with watercolor. But I'm pretty satisfied right off the bat. Yeah, there's no lines in here. I was scrubbing. I will say that the pencil or the water brush itself, it's kind of annoying to have to squeeze it to get more water out and not be able to control how much water you have. So I'll probably just use some normal watercolor brushes for the drawing. But yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I'm gonna go over some of these drier spots with the water brush and see if it does reactivate. It's not supposed to, so we'll see how inky it actually is. But let's try to reactivate some of this. Make sure my brush is clean. Yeah, that's that's really not moving. Wow. I got some movement here, but I think that's because there were some lines that weren't completely blended out yet. But yeah, I'm really like it's pretty permanent, which means you can work in layers and the bottom layers won't seep into the top. So you could keep layering and layering, which I think will be really, really interesting to play around with. Also, you can kind of play around with like drawing while it's wet. You can get some darker lines that way, I think. Or using it like pretty much like a watercolor pan. So you can kind of dab your brush on the tip of the material and then make your colors that way. So these are pretty versatile. I have watercolors and I tend to just use those when I want to watercolor. I also have watercolor pencils and I don't care for them as much. It's the Prismacolor watercolor pencils, and I feel like they don't have a big color payoff. Like, you really have to lay a lot of pigment down to reactivate them. So far, these are beating Prismacolor 100%. What I'm going to go ahead and do now, since I've played with them a little bit, I actually want to do a painting with them. So I'm going to go ahead and time-lapse that for you guys, and I'll come back after the painting.
It looks something like this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I just finished my painting. It's actually quite a bit later. I probably took about an hour and a half on this. What I did, I'll just tell you the process. There's my little, I don't know, I got it from a book of animals. It's called A Military Macaw. I don't know what the fuck that is. I thought it was a parrot. I don't know what this is, but I drew it. So it was really, really interesting because I thought these Inktense pencils were either going to be like watercolor or like watercolor pencils, and it was nothing like watercolor. So what I did, and what you can see from the video, is I laid in flat color, like just colored all over, and then wet it, and I gave a really flat color. And what I did after that is I went back in with the pencils. I layered up some more because I wanted to layer, because they're so good for layering. So I did a lot of layering in the beak here, some layering here in the feathers as well, and in the face. And then after everything dried, I left everything to completely dry. I went back in with the pencils and used them as color pencils to get some finer detail. And then finally I went in with a white gel pen and got some kind of cracks in the beak. And my one thing that was difficult to do with these, for me anyway, was to feather out and fade the paint. So if I'm working with watercolor, it's really easy to leave the white of the page and to fade the paint into the page. But it was really hard for me to reserve some white. So I did go back in with a white gel pen and kind of lighten some areas up. But that was the only thing that was difficult for me. These were really easy to use, really fun to use. I think this came out pretty damn cool. I don't usually draw animals, so for me, this is good for me. And I found it really, really easy to get fine detail, which is one of my biggest complaints with watercolor. I love watercolor, but it's just not a medium that I personally know how to get fine details with. I've seen people do it, but I've never been able to do it. So I think this is like the perfect medium for me if I want to do a watercolor with fine detail. So trying to compare it to watercolor, it's really nothing like watercolor. The way I use these pencils was not at all like how I would go about a watercolor painting. This was definitely more tedious, more precise. This was more like drawing, and then I would just use the water to kind of lay over a big surface. So this was definitely much more like watercolor pencils, or even just dry media. So so it came a little bit more intuitively to me because I began my art career with just dry media. So I do prefer these over the Prismacolor pencils, the watercolor pencils, because I feel like the color payoff you get with the water per pigment that you lay down is much better than the Prisma watercolor pencils. So with just a little bit of pigment, you get a lot of vibrant color with these, and I don't feel that's true for the watercolor, Prisma watercolor pencils. I feel like you have to like really lay down a lot of pigment just to get some color. So I really, really enjoyed these. I'm definitely going to use these some more. Like I said, it's completely different from watercolor and how I would go about a watercolor painting, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like for this awesome, not parrot, whatever the fuck it is, but I really had a lot of fun painting this. I think it turned out good. I'm proud of it. And yeah, I definitely love these pencils. So if you can get your hands on them, get your hands on them. But I really had a lot of fun. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys think about the bird and about the pencils if you've tried them before or other similar products. Give me your thoughts down below. And if you want me to try another item, then just let me know. And if I can, I'll try it out. So thank you for watching and have a good day. See you guys.